everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazell. This is Abram, Buehner, and today we're here to talk about Nintendo. It is 2025, as of recording, but not for very much longer. We're here to take a look back at Nintendo's 2025. As I think we've been doing this every year since we started. It's like, hey, how did Nintendo do this year? What the hell? What the hell happened? What the hell happened, Abram? We're here to talk about Nintendo's 2025, all the games they released. Obviously, Switch 2 is basically all we're going to be talking about here because it's basically all that happened.
Yes.
And give our thoughts on it, how it ranks up compared to other years, as this is also going to be our opportunity to sort of talk about Switch 2, 6 months in. How are we feeling about it? Looking forward to 2026, that kind of stuff. Abram, where is it? Where is it that you want to start? Do you want to do this chronologically? You want to go by like interest? How do you want to structure this?
Here's what I want to do.
Okay, he's got an idea, ladies and gentlemen.
Step aside for a moment. Whoa.
I'm a man of my word. I listen.
The end of 2024 for Nintendo wasn't super vibrant.
No.
I thought Mario Party Jamboree was pretty good. But I know that you... Oh, wow, you got it right there.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's the thing. I was going to do a bit, like, whoa, look at all the games Nintendo released this year. And it's just a bunch of stuff that they did, like, re-releases of. I got Tears of the Kingdom. I got Donkey Kong, Xenoblade, Mario Galaxy.
That's a good bet. But I was raising this because I know that you went a long period of time where you weren't really playing any Nintendo stuff.
No, yeah, I think it was between the like one night of Mario Party that I played and the release of. Really, was it Mario Kart? Like,
it must have been.
Wow.
Because the reason I'm raising this in part is that I think obviously a lot of discussions about Nintendo's 2025 will center June to December, and obviously ours is about to as well. But June to December, I don't know if you realize this, Tucker. In fact, check me here. That's only half of the year.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, so we've got a very imbalanced year to talk about.
Well, it's because it's right. It almost doesn't really feel like that time is relevant because even though the Switch 2 wasn't out yet, that was all we talked about or all we cared about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, it was checking in about the leaks, taking a look at the two back-to-back Nintendo Directs we got during that time, these sort of very short reveal trailer of the Switch 2 itself we got on the same day as Donkey Kong Country. So like the Switch 2 really loomed large over the whole year, even though we only actually had it for 6 months.
Yeah.
And the two games Nintendo released in the first half of the year, which you didn't play, you didn't miss anything really.
No.
I thought Donkey Kong Country Returns HD was pretty fun. I love Donkey Kong Country, and that is a fine version of the game, unless you are like a psychopath and you're gonna like pretend that Forever Entertainment did like some like unacceptably poor job. It's not a great port, but like I don't know, man. It's just Donkey Kong Country Returns. Whoa.
There's a cat fight going on back there.
Well,
welcome to my room, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what happens when you mention Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and Forever Entertainment in front of Jesse.
Uh-oh.
And then Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, it was okay.
Yeah,
I think that Xenoblade Chronicles X on Wii U or Switch is so boring.
It's not a game I played like an hour of it on Wii U.
Yeah.
And for me, and I'll give the game another shot when I eventually get Definitive Edition for myself. I'm very glad that version of the game exists. It's preserved. It looks a lot better. Of course, I think there's a little extra content in it and that kind of thing. But I remember playing it and being like, I don't care. It's so dry. And I'm sure dry. If I sink 45 hours into it and I get a scale, I'll be like, boy howdy, this is one of the best things that ever happened. But I'm like, there's so much I could do with that time.
Yeah, you should get a scale at like hour 2.
I agree, 100%.
So yeah, the point is, I just thought it was useful to sort of note that.
That's like if you got Ultra Hand 45 hours into Tears of the Kingdom.
Exactly.
Or you got Cappy 45 hours into Odyssey.
Cappy's like a post game reward. I just thought it was useful to note that like. There were 6 other months of the year.
Yeah.
And there was like basically fuck all to play.
Yeah.
And so that time was just like sitting in the waiting room for Switch 2, which in its own way was amusing enough, diverting enough, and we were dialed into every leak and rumor.
I do think it's important to talk about the games. Obviously, I think we'll kind of dive into how we feel about the lineup of Nintendo's releases overall, and then specific games as well. But I actually think that the most interesting element of Nintendo this year is their communication. I mean, they were just trying different things. We came out of 2024, but at the end of 2024, if you remember, was also really weird in terms of Nintendo just dropping stuff and having the play
music
test
service,
and,
a clock,
just like announcing shit. They're like, oh, hey, Xenoblade's happening. They just like said that one. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But that was the end of 2024, and that energy totally continued into 2025, where like they just dropped the Switch 2 trailer one morning without any like hype up
on
to
the
it.
release of Donkey Kong.
Exactly, like there's just like these question marks. I don't know if you remember, but they released an app called Nintendo Today, where they were gonna be telling us stuff about Nintendo, and that's true. It kind of is, but I do think it's emblematic of this like weirdly experimental year in terms of like doling out information in a way that I think is engaging for me to follow. And I think as sort of the cards have shaken out over the course of the year, I'm like, no, the communication has been fine. We've gotten a lot of information, but as you're going along with it, I think this year was like it was a very rocky road for Nintendo and the Nintendo fan base, like following all their very strange communication in 2025.
You know, they gave us a lot of information, but it was rarely ever the information I was looking for at the time.
Yeah.
We had to wait a long time to get release dates. We had to get a game like Splatoon Redders, and I was reflecting on this actually. We don't even know that Splatoon Redders is coming out next year. I mean,
that is true.
I mean, it's coming out next year, obviously. But that was just announced one day, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this must be coming out in September. And then who fucking knows? We don't have a year on it. It's coming out next year, obviously. But and I think that was certainly frustrating for me. And beyond sort of what it might reflect for like a changing marketing strategy within Nintendo or whatever, I think that it ultimately just kind of left me off in wanting. Yeah. And I feel like leaving me wanting when a new system is out is not the best feeling, because it's like I got the thing, like I got the thing I've been wanting. Why am I still feeling wanting?
Yeah, well, that's I think what's so odd about it, and why I want to center sort of the beginning of this conversation around that is I think from the end of 2023, which is a great year, and also I think had much more consistent communication, consistent directs and things like that, into 2024, where we were basically in like a weird holding pattern where we're like, Nintendo's like release cadence is a little bit weird. Okay, here's obviously some of the games that maybe they were like there was like the thought that they delayed Switch 2, so like here's the stuff that they're kind of just putting out to like tide us over. The communication is odd. It's like, well, okay, clearly that's because they delayed Switch 2, and so they're trying to figure things out, and like things are shifting on dime. That was very much the narrative of 2024. And I think all of that and the weirdness of that year, I just kept thinking in the back of my mind, well, they're going to lock in at some point. Like the Switch 2 is going to come out. They've been saving up everything. And I think that's like part true and part not. And I'm surprised by looking back at this year and the weird list of games that the Switch 2 has had in the last 6 months, the inconsistency of the communication, it feels kind of experimental. It's like, maybe this is just what Nintendo is now. But I have to say, as someone who's really into this, I just think it's fascinating. I mean, this year has been so interesting to track, and the ups and downs of being in the Nintendo community is insane, because we talk about all of this: the inconsistency, the weird communication, the strange releases, in some corners, inconsistent releases in terms of like reception and quality and sales and all of that. And then what that means is that I'm going to say this, and I obviously it's not necessarily like a true across history, but for me, being engaged in Nintendo community, this was like the worst year. It's like every year was just some sort of discourse and anger and frustration. And it's like in a year where we got long-awaited titles and the release of a new system, it was the Nintendo being so weird that caused strife and anger among the Nintendo community.
let me hold on. Let me call a timeout here, because I got to clarify this with you. When you say worst year, What do you mean? And I understand you just explained it.
Yeah. Oh.
So let me be more clear. Do you mean that for you it was a bad year? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Well, to be a part of the Nintendo community and like seeing what people are talking about and the infighting that we got, and the controversy around basically every single release. Even something like 2016, which is like a legendarily bad year in terms of releases.
Yes.
And that was 10 years ago
Awful
at this
year.
point. This was certainly a lot better than that. But I don't like people arguing, Abram. It makes me sad.
So here's my question then. I need to take this one step further with you, right? So you don't like people arguing. I agree. I wrote a whole op-ed for Skybox. Shout out Will. Shout out Lucas. Shout out Brian. I think that's the three again. Give everyone a shout out. Talking about very similar things. How I just felt like the quality of discourse was really below was below what it could be this year.
Yeah.
Insofar as that, with all these really amazing, or if not amazing, interesting games we got, there was so much more that could be talked about or dug into that sort of got beyond a lot of the sort of surface level. Price related, game key card related, etc. Infighting or whatever. But for me, the reason I'm asking this question is that the 6 months from June until now is like the happiest I've been with a Nintendo system, maybe ever.
Sure.
And so, that's what's so. But here's my question. No, stop. Wait. The point I'm making is, for me, I hold the discourse over here and my enjoyment over here.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they cross like this, right? But not always.
Yeah.
A little bit of visual humor for the folks. For you, Tucker, would you say that the noxious quality of the discourse hurt your enjoyment personally of the year and the games or the system or whatever?
Well, I think it's more that, especially in the context of us doing a retrospective conversation like this, I have to talk about what the experience was like of talking about Nintendo over the course of the year. We're talking about directs, we're talking about announcements, we're talking about the reveal of the system, the release of the system, and the conversation around that in some way almost drowns out the reality is that there were a ton of games released, and there was a bunch of very good ones, and we got a whole variety of different series and a couple new IP and like all this stuff, but almost everything has this like tinge to it. And so I like, when I'm thinking back on 2025, 5 or 6 years from now, I'm just gonna look at the list of games and I'll be like, that was a good year for games. A lot of stuff happened. Some games I liked, some I didn't like. Very interesting lineup, that kind of stuff. But like in 2025, following this stuff, sometimes it was even difficult to just have a straight up conversation about Switch 2. About, like, you and I made a video about I think maybe 3 months in after the release of Donkey Kong, when we were thinking about Switch 2, and we really did have a straight up conversation about how is the system better or worse, and like we really tried to stay close to what Switch was. And actually we've done a really good job of that with our reviews of so many of the major titles, and I like those because it's like I can take a breath and like let the bullshit like leave my mind and not deal with what everyone else is saying. But that's not the majority of how I've talked about Nintendo and thought about Nintendo. Is when I think about Mario Kart World, it isn't a game that I like, which I do. It's a game that it seems like nobody else likes. And when I think about Legends Arceus, it's not ZA, it's not a game that I like, which I do. It's a game that has bad graphics and yada yada yada, and like so much stuff is just like stuck in this mire this year. There's nothing this year that escaped controversy, which is just really, really like, it's an interesting experience, and that does color my perspective on this year in like a slightly negative light.
Yeah, I think it's hard, because I often found myself playing any of these games and thinking, oh man, but people are so unhappy about this.
Yeah.
Be it anything from, as you're saying, window textures in ZA to an intermission track in Mario Kart, to the desert in Prime 4 or whatever. And then this is what I had to do. I had to say to myself, our peers are making this all worse. I didn't do that. We have made great content this year talking about Nintendo. I think that most people talking about Nintendo online are uninvested and stupid. And I really mean that.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't take anything anymore that's said on Twitter. I don't take anything anymore that's said on a channel making 10-minute news videos unless they're one of our friends who I love dearly. I don't care about what any of their audiences have to say. I don't care what they have to say. Sure. The only difference between a Nintendo channel people like and a grifter is that they come to different conclusions.
Sure.
I don't care what any of these people have to say. And that's, I think is my big takeaway from 2025. Mm-hmm. I cannot allow bottom of the barrel, digging through the bottom of the barrel discourse to govern my interest in Nintendo. Because if I am to do that, I think I'm to lose out on all of the many excellent conversations, as you just cited, that we had.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's a plea, I suppose I would make to our many friends who do make Nintendo content. Mm-hmm. That we gotta rise above all this shit.
Yeah.
There's just I just am so surprised that we're letting all these people on Twitter lead us by the ear into discourse about all this shit that doesn't matter. Sure. It's not relevant.
Yeah.
It's people who aren't playing the games. People who don't have the system. It's people who are just here to stoke up whatever or have no ability to do anything other than repeat talking points. We had a conversation about Donkey Kong and about Pokemon and about Metroid and all these games that is 18 times deeper and better than anything else anyone else is doing. Yeah. And we're in this. We are in the year of Marty Supreme. We're in the year of Timothy Chalamet. We're in the year of not being modest. We're in the year of being honest and understanding that we're better than these other people.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pretend like my year has been colored that much by people who are worse at this than we are.
Yeah.
And I don't like our audience unless you're in our Discord. So join our Discord or I won't like you. Figure to throw that out there. Because our Discord also cultivates good conversation.
That is true. 100% true. Yeah. There was even... Don't tell anyone this. I don't think this is usually that. This morning, there was people who disagreed, and then they still said they respect each other's opinion.
I know.
This morning, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Amazing.
So I got goosebumps, and I woke up and I read it. I'm like, whoa.
But if I can sort of not be so hyperbolic, I really just think that there's a degree to which a lot of the conversation that's being had online is noise, and I think that feeding into the noise is making the noise worse. Sure. And I'm just somewhat surprised, although I understand the incentives on YouTube or whatever to feed into that, but I just find it unfortunate and disappointing that a lot of discourse this year feels so unconcerned with the games themselves and feels more concerned with the games as part of a larger business strategy that's not germane to you as a player or involved in these consumer side points of discourse about price and accessibility and all this shit that is just dishonest, I think, at best. Yep. So I think I'm with you in terms of it was a cloud, but I think at a certain point I was like, hey, look, I got to clear that cloud away.
Sure.
Got to clear that cloud away and be the ray of sunshine that I am and the ray of sunshine you are to do something better.
Yeah. Well, to that point, we've covered our bases. Nintendo was weird this year, and we'll still talk about that as we get into the games and announcements and stuff like that. The discourse was bad. I would argue some of the worst we've seen in the Nintendo community. Agree. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot to talk about. That isn't just vague discourse and nonsense. Yes. I got a big stack of games here, Abram. I got a number of games, and this doesn't even count all these Nintendo Switch 2 edition games. 4 or 5 of them that were released this year that I didn't buy. It's crazy how much happened, specifically as you mentioned, in the last 6 months. It has been busy. It's been busy to the point where I've even argued, I don't know if I've done this on video, but that I think it's been a little too much for me to, even as a hardcore Nintendo fan, to really keep up with everything that's happening in terms of releases and really dig into things. But what that means is that there's just so many avenues we can go down in terms of reveals and releases and franchise variety and all this stuff. And I have to say, all of this discourse and Nintendo weird communication and stuff, what at the end of the day, what really matters, especially looking back, when we look back in a few years, is the titles that were released. And I think 6 months in, where the launch window of the system is coming to a close, I think I can look back and say, this was a really strong start to the system. I don't think that it tops the launch window of the Switch, which is the first 8 or 9 months of that system releasing in March to the end of the year, given that I think a variety of those titles were a little bit stronger. I think even some of the best titles this year, the biggest, still do have that tinge of controversy, not in a discourse way, but in a people disagree about their design way. I think rightfully Switch's launch window will be revered more than Switch 2, but Switch 2, I think, is really no slouch in terms of variety and pace of releases and balance in terms of, even though there was a lot of re-releases, they weren't the only things coming out in any given month. Like, I like this year a lot. But I have to couch that in. Nothing was like all-timer for me. But I think it's more interesting. That there isn't just like the obvious, it was Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. It's like, there's a little something for everyone. And it might not be everyone's 10 out of 10, but like, I feel like anyone can look at this lineup and really find something that they really champion.
Yeah. And, something that we've talked about previously, but you're sort of making this point, right? That like you had Breath of the Wild and you had Mario Odyssey, and then you have sort of this smorgasbord of games. I'm always bad at saying that word. And there's a different, we've talked about this. The
great thing about that word is no one will, no matter how you pronounce it, no one will ever think you're saying anything but.
That's exactly correct. That's a great
There's
point.
There's nothing else that sounds like it.
We talked about this before, but Nintendo was under different pressures in both, right? And so when you come out with a lineup like 2017's where you're just saying, look, if this doesn't do it, nothing will, right?
Yeah, it was a Hail Mary pass from like 4 or 5 different EPD teams like making their best work, and just like, holy shit.
Yeah, and you get in Mario Kart, you get in Splatoon, you get in Zelda, you get in Mario, you get in everything. It's like, this is fucking everything, and please God, let this work, right? Yeah. And that's not the situation Nintendo's been in this year, obviously. And maybe that's partially because we just had your citing 2023 earlier. You just had a lot of those teams deliver huge, excellent things, and in some ways, I kind of felt like this year was really a continuation of the wider Switch era than it was to start something totally new. In part because a lot of these games either were Switch 1 titles or began as life as Switch 1 titles or whatever.
Yeah, basically all of them in some way.
Yeah, or just because it doesn't really feel like we're quite back to the top of the batting order yet. Also, entirely because there's no big Zelda, for instance. But
for us, that's cool.
For me, that's fantastic because, like I was saying before, I think that with hindsight, Nintendo will have released 3 games that I would put in the top 10% of all of their games.
Sure.
For me.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Bonanza even higher. Donkey Kong Bonanza, I think I could safely say is in my top 15 games ever right now.
Sure. Yeah.
And that'll only grow. And I feel similarly about Mario Kart World, which on some days I like more than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is among my 5 favorite games ever. And Prime 4. I'm in the middle of my second playthrough right now, and I really do love that game, right? So I found this 6-month period to be everything I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I think it's probably fair to say that I'm more interested in what Nintendo's doing in their B tier franchises.
Sure. I got a couple 6 months coming up for you next.
Exactly. Then what's happening in the S tier? Not to say that I don't.
That actually the first half of next year gets to the second half of the alphabet.
Yes, it does.
Which you're like, boy, howdy.
Exactly. And this is not.
It was like the bottom 5 letters of the alphabet in 2024, though.
That is true.
Yeah, it was like it was like the V through Z tier games.
Yeah, that was tough, right? And I think also coming off of that to get these games that I got then was excellent. And the correction out of 2024, and we've talked about this before, but there really was actually a lot of games in 2024 in a excuse me, not a ton that I loved, but there was a couple that I did. But to have the first 6 months of the Switch deliver me these things I've been waiting so long for.
Sure.
I've been waiting so long for a big Donkey Kong game, and waiting so long for a new Prime game, waiting so long for a new Mario Kart game, and then to have them deliver for me in very specific ways. And if people want, we've got very extensive discussions with all of these games that they can go check out. So I'm going to speak about them more.
Almost all of them? Yeah. Not Zelda and not Kirby.
Yeah.
I would almost like to, though. Just for like
We still
completionist
can.
sake. I think you and I should hop on Kirby Air Riders in like a day or two.
Yeah.
Play a little bit, think about the game, and then come back, crack our knuckles, and come back with a 90-minute fucking epic.
I'd be happy to do that. I mean, I have basically nothing to say about Hyrule Warriors. I think that's the only game from this slate that it's not even that I'm disappointed by it. It's just like I'm like, this is exactly what it purports to be. There's nothing about this that moves me in any way. But to get these games and to have them be what I wanted them to be, and to hit so close together was really quite tremendous for me. But before we even get any deeper into the games themselves, when they came out, how they were positioned, how we felt we had time or not time for them, Tucker, you were mentioning before, and it's totally true. I mean, it's literally true. We've had our Switch 2s for 6 months now. So I want to also think big picture about the hardware. You've had the system for 6 months now. How is it fitting into your life? How are you enjoying it? Is it everything you hoped and dreamed of?
That's a loaded question, Abram. I'm really happy with it. I mean, I think one of the reasons why I slowed down on my Nintendo Switch playing in the second half of that system's life cycle, and really only focused on the new Nintendo titles, was because a lot of games, as I became a bigger PS5 player and a bigger PC player, my preference for clean visuals really grew. And so when I started thinking about some of the even indie titles that I was playing on my Switch, and I would notice jagginess, weird shadows, that kind of stuff on Switch 1 from any range of titles, I would always be like, it would be a question in my mind. Like, do I want this portably on my Switch 2, or I'm sorry, on my Nintendo Switch, or do I want it to be the sort of polished and clean vision that the developers made it to be? Because it always felt to me like a Switch game was a little bit more compromised, right? It's like, we're gonna dumb it down a little bit. We're gonna put a little crust on the edges to make sure that it runs. And is on Switch 1 and should be on Switch 1 and all that. But with Switch 2, the games look so clean, man. I'm so happy with clean hardware. It's not the most powerful hardware. And I, playing some of these games, especially Switch 1 games that aren't particularly optimized for Switch 2, you still get a little bit of that crust, a little bit of dank. But for the most part, all the games that I've played on Switch 2, I just feel like I'm not playing a compromised version anymore. And so I've really found myself gravitating towards buying more games on my Switch 2, because I'm like, this isn't a compromised version. So I'm just so happy with that. And even to that point, it's like, I really respect when a game series, when a piece of technology, when anything is just a polished version, right? And Switch 1 in some ways feels like it was years and years of them like leading up to something like, we've got everything figured out. Let's clean up the edges. Let's make the eShop run so much better. Let's make the general user experience just that touch more polished. And so now when I use my Switch 2, I'm like, we did it. This is it. This is like the clean version of the thing that I loved so much in my Switch 1, but there's no going back. The Joy-Con 2 are so much better than the Joy-Con 1. The user experience, the slickness of the system, the material that they made it out of is just that little bit more premium. I'm really happy with the Switch 2. And of course, that is not even to say the list of games that we'll talk about I think is very interesting. But the hardware itself, I really don't know if I could be much happier with the way that it turned out. It's just everything that I liked about Switch, but like 40% better, which is like a pretty big jump.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think a difference we have is that for me, even in the later years of the Switch, it was my main system. Mm-hmm. I'll play the fucked up version of a game on Switch before I'll play it anywhere else. Yeah. And so I was on Switch basically daily every day until June 5th, right? Yeah. So I had that immediate June 4th, I'm on Switch 1, June 5th, I'm on Switch 2 experience, and it really can't be overstated, what you're saying. Yeah. Or can't, overstated.
No, understated. No. particularly stated in one particular way or another.
You can't. It's impossible to aptly capture how significant this jump is, and I don't just mean in the ways you're talking about, because I agree with you. I think that the Joy-Con 2 are so much more comfortable. I feel like the locking mechanism fixes my biggest issue with Switch 1, which is popping my fucking Joy-Con off the top of the system in handheld mode. So I'm applying a little too much pressure, and the lock is worn down over time. It's like, and playing they
get a little greasy. The stick gets a little weird.
the stick's starting to wear down. It's just like
on my Joy-Con 1, I don't know if it was from like the launcher or not, but like it has like this weird like lump in the like rubber. I'm like, how the fuck did I even get there? And honestly, it's to me, it's a comparison on controller wise of DualShock 4 to DualSense, where I'm just like, we did it. Like once you've played with a DualSense, you're not going back to a fucking DualShock 4.
Yes, exactly. And but it even goes beyond the build quality for me. It goes beyond that. It goes to the speed of the Wi-Fi chip. I mean, man, just everything about it is just a lot more sophisticated. One of the games I've been spending some time with before Switch 2 came out was Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. And that game is like 14 gigs or whatever, and it took like hours to download on Switch 1. And then I'm reinstalling that before a flight on Switch 2, and I think it downloaded in like 15 minutes. So we are in the fucking future right now, man. And so,
it's just it's one of those things where retroactively it's like that's what we put up with, and there definitely were people complaining about it, especially with the speed of the eShop and stuff like that. But like there was no other option. That's how it was for almost a decade, and now it's like have you even really like picked up your Switch 1 since then? You picked it up, you're like, oh.
Yes, I had to do a little bit of system linking and a little bit of data transferring or whatever. Or at one point I had to get some more stuff off my Switch 1. I'm like, this thing feels so tiny and weird now. I think what the biggest thing that I have to praise the Switch 2 on is how it feels in my hand. Because my biggest concern going into it, and I even said, I've caveated it even in our 3-month video of like, I still don't know yet how I feel about the size. To me, the size is great. And because I play mostly in handheld mode, I sort of always have. And so I still do, and I find it to be very comfortable. And I think that when Switch 1 was my main squeeze every day, right? And so I'm going right over to Switch 2. All of
I thought your girlfriend was your main squeeze. What the fuck? Does she know?
I didn't want to have to admit this on camera, Tucker, but it's actually Nintendo Switch family of systems. But to transfer in that way, you notice all of this stuff piling up.
Totally.
And so I really couldn't be happier with the hardware, and I couldn't be happier with the way that I've felt constantly engaged in the system. I think that's another big thing for me. And, because I even remember to this day getting my Switch 1 and obviously really enjoying it, but really like wanting a little more out of it, right? And this is where I think the point of continuity...
In what way?
Well, this is because I didn't have any legacy stuff. I couldn't play any classic games. The library took a while to accumulate.
That fresh start definitely made the first 5 or so months feel like, you got a couple options.
There's some things that I think people forget about early Nintendo hardware. And I'm not talking early in history, I'm talking early when you get it. Like
early in life cycle.
The 3DS launched at the eShop. I think a lot of people forget that. Switch 1 launched without NSO. It didn't have NSO until September 2018.
No folders.
Nothing, right? So there were these periods of time when I get a new Nintendo system and be like, okay,
this is cool. NSO icon in the corner where you can go look at the timeline and get some crystal apples for Kirby Fighters 2.
That's a fucking crazy reference. Were they gem apples though? I hate that I might be more right than you about that.
The point stands.
There's none of that.
Hour-long conversation about gem apples coming up soon, ladies and gentlemen. Because we want to stay close to the text. We don't want to talk. We don't want to get to the controversy, the discourse around gem apples.
The continuity from Switch 1 to Switch 2, I think, is really key. And obviously this is in some ways obvious, but I think to some people it was a detriment. It was like, this isn't new enough. But to me, I'm like, man, I've got everything at my fingertips right now, and the way that a lot of stuff shuck out. No, that's for clams. Shook out is or corn.
You remember we did that? You remember that? You remember
we had
4th of July?
Off, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We were like standing there. Was it you and me? I think. Yeah, we did like a speed shucking competition. Like first did.
Someone's got the video of that.
Yeah,
someone's got the video of that. But I was able to experience a lot of games at higher frame rates or more smoothly, or just simply have them all at my fingertips, and then to have GameCube NSO there day one.
Yeah,
I really
they're still updating the old ones as well. We're getting still N64 and Genesis and like that kind of games. Yeah,
I felt like I really got a running start, and I think that there's sort of a feeling that a lot of Nintendo hardware is like kind of inert in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Even the hardware we look back so fondly on, I think that there's a rosiness around what the early months were actually like, and I felt none of that was Switch 2.
Yeah, I've definitely, as I've been trying to like make an argument, not only for myself, but for others, of why I'm so impressed by the first 6 months of Switch 2, lineup-wise and experience-wise. I've been going back and doing some of that research of looking back at what was the first 12 months of Wii like? What was the first, or I guess 6 to 8 months of GameCube, of DS, 3DS? And, you look at DS Library and you're like, God damn. But the first 6 to 8 months of the DS Library was like Pokemon Dash and Nintendogs, like straight up. Like that was the fucking games that you had to play. And the quality, the quantity, the retrospective element that you have, all this legacy content. I think Switch 2, here's the word of the day. Don Cheadle word of the day for Switch 2, holistic. Abram.
Yeah.
Holistic. Is that not only is there there's 3 areas. There's the new games, which we'll dig into a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's the Switch 2 editions, which I do want to talk a little bit more about in specific. And then there's also the fact that out of the box, day one, Nintendo, their teams, and their partners did, I think, surprisingly deep job of going back to Switch 1 titles and optimizing them under the hood, kind of silently. You pop the cartridge in, maybe it does a little bit of an update, but you are playing Link's Awakening, you're playing Echoes of Wisdom, you're playing fucking Mario Odyssey with just that little bit extra touch of power and polish that really makes... I mean, like, look, I was talking about the crust. I was playing my Nintendo Switch 1 games, all my Nintendo Switch 1, and that's the only place I could play them. And I would say, like, a little bit of jaggedness for the textures, or, like, pop in the backgrounds for something like Kirby. It's all gone.
Actually, you could have been playing them on Yuzu.
Is that not something? I think Nintendo like took that down or something. Whatever.
It's a fuck.
But I think that's one of the elements of Switch 2 that really goes underappreciated, because it feels like, of course, but not really. Nintendo hadn't really done that before. I think both in the what I'll call silent upgrades and then the Nintendo Switch 2 editions, they've done actually a really good job at being holistic and like making sure that everything feels up to date on their new hardware, but not foregrounding it. I think that's actually a key, is that when you look back at Switch 1, so many Wii U games were like the only game releasing within a 2-month period, and the only thing you could really talk about is, they added fucking Funky Kong or like Decidueye, and like and like that was like the talking point, or like the fucking in Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition on Switch 1, I was like, they added like a Breath of the Wild skin for Link. Like that was it. And like that's all you had to talk about for like a 6 to 8 week window. But they've done a really good job at, I think, like obfuscating. Like there's enough here for just Switch 2 original stuff and cross-gen to where you can just focus on that. But if you really want to dig into what the breadth of what happened this year, you can talk about and go into and play fucking Clubhouse Games got an update on Switch 2. And you can go and talk about Star-Crossed World and Jamboree TV if you fucking desire. Like they've really got this like everyone is here mentality with Switch 2.
By the way, look at this. John got this for me from the Nintendo San Francisco store. It's fucking cool. And I've seen it.
Why are they like the like cum color though? That's not iconic Splatoon 3 iconography.
Yeah, I don't actually remember why, but I like that. It's like cool.
Cum is cool.
I'm always saying this. I've been saying this.
I think that's what I'm going to title this video. See how that hits the SEO.
We'll just be, what I like about that
is hold on. We can put that picture of you and me playing WarioWare. We're like, cum is cool, and like a splattery font.
what I like about this idea, obviously we're not going to do this, but it's funny because it's a real way to see who's really watching our videos. That's how you find out if BLB videos without the algorithm, with no outside support, get 4 views or 35.
Let me tell you, BLB videos don't get the outside support. They don't get the algorithm.
But no, but what I'm saying is like when our no, but here's what I mean. When our video, if a video we make gets like 500 views, I'm like, this ended up in a search bar.
Yeah, no, of course,
like a sidebar.
Of course. Yeah.
This is not relevant. What was I going to say? Fuck. Here's what I was going to say.
Holistic Nintendo games.
People look back at 2017 and they're like, oh, look, there was like a game every month. And that is true. Yeah. But I don't think people... I think that that's a discussion point. What I mean by this is 30 days is a long period of time.
Sure.
Let's say you get a new Nintendo game and you play it for 1 week and you beat it, or you're mostly done with it.
Yeah, which is how the hardcore fans engage with their games.
Now you got 3 weeks until the next game.
Yeah.
With Switch 2, to your point, there's all these little crack fillers.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that
I'm thinking about making a new role on the Discord. Crack filler.
and I think that is...
I'll give it to myself first, by the way.
Of course. Well, we've all been calling you that behind your back.
Yeah.
Into your face right now. There's this, I think, feeling of in any moment of downtime, there's been something for me to investigate.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, you know, you were citing all these examples. I replayed Mario Odyssey this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that 4K version, man, is fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was in Bub Lane. I was under the water as a cheap. I'm like, I've never seen a video game look better than this. I think that's Nintendo's prettiest game ever. And like, there's a real novelty to going back to that stuff. Mm-hmm. Or to jumping into a GameCube game. Like, there's a lot of hemming and hawing about whether or not Nintendo's releasing enough GameCube games.
Sure.
But you release one GameCube game in the month, we're not talking about an NES game that you're going to play for 5 minutes and turn off.
Yeah.
All right? Mm-hmm. These are like actual
video games. We're not talking about Joe and Mac.
Yeah, I'm not 35, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, fucking Nobunaga's Ambition on SNES is like something you really should pay attention to.
Well, I mean, that was this year, though. Wasn't it?
Wasn't that but even... It was, but even what I'm saying is like those games, I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
You do a drop of 4 SNES games, I'll get another 18 minutes of playtime onto SNES Online.
Yeah,
but you put out
it's SNES Classic now.
I don't care. It's still NES Online. Yeah. Only thing I'll ever dead name is the Nintendo Online
and Twitter.
And Twitter, I guess.
Yeah.
But you put GameCube. You put a GameCube game on it. Even one that I think sucks, like Wario World. I think Wario World sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
God, by the way, I just have to say, I'm so fucking glad people finally can try that game and know what I'm saying. Because I played a little bit of that game like 2 years ago. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck were they thinking?
It's also, I just think it's funny that you're like so relieved about this because like who was talking about Wario World?
Well, I don't know, but like the only people who are talking about it were people who played it when they were kids and they were like, oh dude, they should bring back fucking Wario World. And they did. Now everyone's like, this was buns.
See, I was discerning as a child. We've litigated this many times on the channel, but I was discerning as a child because I didn't like that game then and I don't like it now.
You had it when you were a kid?
I remember getting it from a charity shop. And I remember bringing it home and I don't remember
anything. It makes sense. You're a charity case.
Still am.
And a basket case.
I was all kinds of cases. But yeah, these GameCube games are more significant. These patches to Switch 1 games are significant. These Switch 2 versions are all awful, but they're still significant, right? Yeah. I felt like there was not a dull moment in this window. And I think the Nintendo has set up this these stratas of content to where I don't really think there'll be many dull moments going forward. You know, as we're recording this, we're only 2 weeks away from a consequential Animal Crossing update. Yeah.
And it's a across the board update. It's a Switch 2 version, but it's also that you don't really need that one. You can just play the fucking update.
Yeah. And so, you know, or Splatoon 3, I put another 10 hours or so into Splatoon 3 this year because the 10.0 update also came with a patch for Switch 2. Yeah. And so I feel like we're in a really great position to where content droughts of even 14 days are kind of a thing of the past. You got your NSO games, you got your Switch 2 versions, you got your free updates, you got your new games. Like there's so much. And I think that's what's kept my playtime on PlayStation and Xbox this year so low.
Totally.
Because I can't even look away.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I look
You're gonna
away
miss a ton. Yeah.
and there's something here. And let's invoke that, right? Because to me that's a benefit, because
Yeah.
I have all systems, I play a little bit of everything, but I mostly like Nintendo stuff. That's just sort of my bread and butter. But I know for you that's different. And so everything I'm spinning as a positive right now, I'm not positive you agree that it is one.
No, it is.
Sure.
It's in some ways unfortunate because I wish I could be more dialed in to all this. I wish I had the space to and the time. Frankly, I mean, I'm busier right now than I've ever been. To dig into something like an update to one of my favorite games that got a free patch, or play another 10 hours of Splatoon 3, a game that I really love. But I don't, not only because there's so many indie games specifically that I've been so invested in indie games this year. I've really been playing a ton. And there's been, I mean, Xbox has put out a lot of games. There's been a lot of third-party games that have come out this year that I've really been putting some time into. I've also been exploring a lot of games history, and with all that variety, and there's so much to do and play, I've really found myself doing a lot of sampling to try to get my foothold into a little. That's not the right word.
We know what you mean.
Oh wait, no, foothold's a thing.
You try and get a foothold, but you don't get a foothold into something.
I might.
You put your foot into something for a foothold.
Get your foot in the door with a hold. You hold it. You grip the door with your toes.
I like to put my foot right up your behind.
Oh. But what it's meant is that while the space and the pacing of Switch 1 was more manageable for me to really sink into that system and that ecosystem and ostensibly know and play almost everything that it had to offer in the 8 years that it was super relevant, it's not true with Switch 2. There are multiple first-party new releases this year that I've only played an hour or two of, not only because of all this other stuff, but because, by the time I picked up Kirby Air Riders, or whatever one was first, Hyrule Warriors was out, like, literally a week after I fucking picked it up, because I got it a couple days late. Like the speed at which these things are happening are meaning that, like, I'm a pretty scatterbrained person at the pace that things are happening. I haven't been able to get into it, but I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, because they're always going to be there. All these patches and all these releases are going to be there for when I just want to sit down and revisit Kirby Air Riders. I own the game. I can play it whenever I want. That's not a problem. And I also think that all of this is balanced very well. Again, when you mention Splatoon 3 update, that frankly people didn't really talk about. It's not neither here nor there for me, but it's good that it happened. In Switch 1, that would have been a Wii U port, quote unquote, right? Like it would have been like a re-release, and that would have been the game that released for a 5 to 6 week period.
Yeah. In
Switch 2 ecosystem, a major patch to a major first party game is like a footnote. And it's just this thing that they don't really talk about. They just put it out. It's there if you want it. And it's going to make the game a lot better. And you're going to want to engage with it. Like, I just think the balance of not making this retrospective content, specifically Switch 1 updates and Switch 2 editions of games, not having those be like super foregrounded is actually a benefit to any and all of these games, which is cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, excuse me, I've shared this piece with you before, but I really admire Giovanni Colantonio is writing that in his view.
By the way, I'll also say a Skeeter that I really admire. I love Skeets. I love his Blue Sky posts.
Yes, they're very good. And he made this argument in Polygon that I really liked, that Switch 2 ended up really feeling like a book club. And I think that's true. I think that this sort of constant engagement, checking back in regularly with the system is I think really critical, and it's why I really have a hard time relating to the perspective that there was nothing to play on Switch 2. And again, it just goes back to how I'm so perplexed by so much of the discourse that happened, because I just look at this and I'm like, man, I've got too much to play. Same as you. I mean, there's things that I missed. Same as you, lower impact things, but like, I never had a dull moment to try out either of the Switch 2 versions for the Zelda games, which I would like to do.
Yeah.
I didn't
play. Those are so impressive, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really clean.
I didn't play Mario and Wario, which is sort of
I forgot
which is like actually a really interesting game. It's made by Game Freak. It's a Japanese Super Famicom exclusive. It uses a SNES mouse. Now it uses a Switch 2 mouse.
Yeah.
Like, there were these little things that even got past the goal for me.
How the fuck is Mario Paint now on SNES Online, by the way?
It is.
Oh. There we go. That's my point.
Yeah.
In Switch 1, I would have spent a week. No, that's not true. I would have played it for 30 minutes.
I would have spent 15 minutes. I would have spent 25 minutes maximum.
But I forgot that even happened because there's so much that has been happening. You can rant, you can talk about whatever. I'm up to my fucking eyeballs in piss. It's gonna pass my eyebrows in a second.
You shouldn't
so talk about something while I go relieve myself.
Awesome.
I'm going to the little ladies' room. Wait, that's fucking. Let's not say that.
What do I want to talk about while Tucker's gone? I think I want to. Here's what I want to talk with you about. I want to talk with you about Densetsu no Starfy, which is the first Starfy game, which I played on a whim on Switch 1 earlier this year before Switch 2 came out. It's a very peculiar game because, Starfy, I think, has like sort of a rosy reputation as like a cutesy little Nintendo platformer that goes under the radar. And I think that's true, but I also think that like Starfy is kind of boring. So I think our Western audience mostly is going to know Starfy as the legendary Starfy on DS. But there are these ones on GBA, and they're not that great. Like, the pixel art's beautiful, but they're so talkative. And because they're only released in Japan, I'm, like, mashing through this completely... yes, actually. Mashing through this irrelevant fucking plot of Starfy, just so I can do this, like, kind of basic platforming. It's diverting, it's cute, but, like...
I'll put some air quotes on that, by the way. I've played the legendary Starfy. I'll call it platforming.
Fair enough.
It's more like guiding a character along the screen.
Yeah, I was talking about the first one, which I played on NSO, and like, it's so much fucking story in that game. It's like, what are these characters possibly saying? And obviously, it's all in Japanese, so I can't read it. But I'm like, you're not telling me anything that's relevant because I can play the game fine without knowing what the fuck you're talking about. And B, I can't believe this. I'm sorry. I don't like Puss in Boots enough to believe this. That like the story in this game is meaningful in any way.
I agree with you.
What, I'm gonna like have a relationship to this fucking lobster? It's not gonna happen, man. So cut the text out of Starfy. Maybe we can talk.
What about
right
the big
now,
funny clam character? I feel like that's a guy that you might like.
He's fine.
Or
He's
the
kind of
rabbit with
mischievous.
the rabbit with the like space helmet on.
I don't remember if the rabbit's in the first one.
It might be in the DS one. I know it's in the DS one.
Yeah,
all right, you want to talk about Switch 2?
Yeah, I rate Starfy, Densetsu no Starfy as my least favorite game I finished in 2025.
You fucking finished that game? Wait, how long is it?
2.5 hours long, maybe.
I mean, still, but like,
it was like a car ride. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm already here.
Talk to your family, friends.
No, I'm going to play Starfy.
Nintendo Switch.
Tucker,
2. There's one thing I quickly want to mention. I'm still thinking about this a little bit, so I don't know exactly how I land on it. But I do think some praise should also be levied in terms of balance and cadence of releases on third-party stuff that has been accumulating on Switch 2. I think there was a big bump at launch, lots of big games, cool Switch 2 versions of Cyberpunk and Street Fighter and Hogwarts and like these major games that were touchstones and very cool games coming out on other systems. But now they're there on Switch 2. Split Fiction, Civ 7. Like they really, there's a lot of big stuff that came out.
Civ 7.
But what I've really been fascinated by.
That's Steven's joke. I stole it.
Is this like silent release cadence of like just announcing random third-party Switch 2 ports. Just like you wake up one and you're like, oh, this is either coming soon or out now. And I've really been fascinated by that because when Switch 2 launches with a good slate of third-party games, it kind of goes silent for a while because there's this whole thing about, is Nintendo giving out dev kits? Are they being kind of stingy with it? What was that pre-release process of getting approved like? I think you can very clearly tell that those floodgates were broken open around launch. And after 3, 4, 5, 6 months of, you'll notice I didn't get to 7, of development and people getting their kits, they're starting to get these Switch 2 versions out. And maybe it's something like Skyrim that's actually not great. I don't know how, but it's not great on Switch 2. But Stardew Valley just shadow drops a Switch 2 version that has 8-player multiplayer on Switch 2 and mouse mode and stuff like that. It's like third-party stuff, I think, has a really silently been growing in terms of the amount and variety of content. And I say silently because while there were a couple major directs, I actually want to talk a little bit about those maybe at the end of the video. But a lot of the stuff just there hasn't been the directs to support it. Like, you really could have had like a late September or October third-party focused partner showcase that had things like Skyrim and Stardew Valley and stuff in it, but they just fucking didn't.
Yeah, hold on. Let me grab my Switch here because there's a couple I want to shout out. I want to shout out a couple. Now you have to talk to them for 15 seconds, so I go to my bedroom.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. So Starfy, again, as I said, I played the Legendary Starfy, which is the Switch 2, or Jesus, it's a DS one. I think that might be like the third or fourth Starfy game translated into English. I think it's the only one that released in the West. That game I also think is very boring, and I think it's boring in the same way that I find Kirby very boring. But let's not talk about that anymore.
Okay, so I want to shout out a couple here. Star Wars Outlaws is tremendously impressive on the system. And I've been really enjoying revisiting that. Yeah. The first Temizio I haven't started yet, but I'll be checking that out soon.
That's coming soon, yeah.
Here's one I bought recently, System Shock remake.
Oh, yeah.
Another one, Divinity Original Sin 2.
Oh.
Which I bought
again, that's another thing. Like, that would have been in a Nintendo Direct. And it would have been a pretty cool announcement, but they just kind of put it out.
I just got Assassin's Creed Shadows from my parents for my birthday. So there's just all kinds of stuff that's been dropping, and if I just look ahead on my eShop wish list, there's very consequential stuff coming day and date, which was my hope, right? Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to be able to play Pragmata day and date. I'm going to be able to play Resident Evil day and date. Mm-hmm. And it actually is getting to the point where when something like Lego Batman Legacy of Dark Knight says, "Oh, Switch 2 version coming later," I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, "Whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah,
why not?" Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that is actually a great position to be in, right? Because I'm just hoping that we're going to continue to accumulate day and date releases. And to your point about a partner showcase or whatever, I think part of the reason that I was always largely disinterested in the idea of those before is that because of the relative weakness of Switch 1, you might get a cool surprise thing out of nowhere, but it's largely gonna be legacy content.
Yeah.
But now
or something.
But now we could have a showcase and the Star Wars Jedi games could pop up.
Sure.
Or it could be anything, and I think that sort of it could be anything idea, the fact that we could get sort of suddenly a lot of games from maybe the past 5 years portably is, I think, actually a novelty, because like you can play the stuff on Steam Deck and like it's okay on Steam Deck, but a lot of things are not super optimized on Steam Deck at all. More modern releases, so to start to get kind of bespoke, really good versions of this stuff like Cyberpunk, which you've also been playing on Switch too, is, I think, still important. And I think some people were saying, oh, the novelty of playing stuff portably is gone, and the novelty is gone. I think that's true to a degree, but I don't think that's true in whole, because when we start to get more of these massive PS5 games on the Switch 2, it's going to be big. It's going to be big for me, and it's already consequential to be like, okay, well, Pragmata, I can just get that on the Switch 2. Yeah. So yeah, I am surprisingly happy with the third party situation on Switch 2.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be one of those things where, because it's been happening so silently, I think people haven't really been talking about how this stuff has been building. But when we hit 2026 and the first day and date, I think Resident Evil Requiem is kind of the first major day and date third-party game. That starts to hit, more games are going to be announced. Like I would really be surprised if the first direct of next year doesn't have multiple major day and date announcements for summer and for fall, and these things are going to start happening, and again, all the crack fillers, these cracks are going to start to be filled of like, oh, that's right, this was never on Nintendo before, and now it is, or like these newer games are going to start coming, something like Divinity. And before the end of the year, we're gonna have Baldur's Gate 3 on Switch too. Like these things are gonna start happening.
You'd have to.
And it's just, and like, no way we get out of 2026 and Expedition 33 is not on Switch 2. Like these things are now expected. And a couple months ago, when the amount of third-party dev kits and releases was like a little bit hit or miss, I was a little bit more concerned of like, is this really going to pan out in the way that I hope it is? But I really think the seeds are planted and the signs are showing that again, by the end of next year, third-party support, I think, is going to be really full and rich on Switch 2.
Exactly, and not only that, like I think that you're making the point earlier that like it's not the most powerful system, but it's providing us with clean visuals, right? And I think that part of my worry also was like, okay, maybe they're gonna start getting stuff over, but is it all gonna look like Chronos? Is it all gonna be clearly like severely compromised?
Yeah,
and I think that the answer when people have the time is no. Because Star Wars Outlaws right now on Switch 2 honestly doesn't really look that much different at all than how it looked on PS5 when I played it last year. And Cyberpunk is obviously not at the fidelity of if you're playing it on a high-end PC or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is remarkable how that game looks in handheld mode and on the TV. So I just feel like, people are gonna... Here's what's gonna happen. Resident Evil 9 is gonna come out. It's going to run fine on Switch 2, but the hair, like her hair is going to be messed up. And it's going to be a viral post of here's the hair on Switch 2, here's the hair on PS5. And I'm going to sit here and say it doesn't fucking matter. and so I'm just, I feel like the promise of Switch 2's third party that I was worried wasn't going to be fulfilled, I think is going to be fulfilled. And I especially think that as hardware sales slow down in other sectors of the gaming space, as RAM becomes harder to come by, as we start to spec a little bit lower down, as we start to rely more on flexible engines, I really think that Switch 2 is not going to be left behind the way the Switch 1 was.
Yeah.
And, that's something to litigate in 2028. But I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about the third-party stuff than I was in April.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, you had some serious doubts, and I think they were totally fair at the time. But now, Abram, we could talk about Nintendo games. So, want to do that?
Yeah. Here's my question for you: how do you want to go about this? Because I really feel like a lot of my praises and criticisms are best linked to the specific videos.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
I think passing over some things, maybe talking about how our thoughts have evolved over the course of the last few months, and then also how all this stuff feels in conversation in terms of variety, in terms of series being brought back, and what we feel like it means for the launch window of a new system to have this stack of games that I can hold here and I can talk about almost all of them.
Here's the first thing I want to say to that end, right? Because you were making the point before, and I've seen the point, Levy, that like there's so many ports, there's so many things, and so much recycled content, and that's true on Switch 2.
Yeah.
That's true, but it goes to what we've been talking about this whole time, right? That stack of games, put that stack of games back up.
Oh no, I broke the stack. 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Okay, here it is.
Those are all original games published in that time.
Yes.
Everything else is gravy. If Nintendo only released those games, and welcome to our shut your physical copy, welcome to our.
I didn't get my card for Dragon Drive. I have been thinking about it though. Like I was sort of look one, see if I don't even know if they actually made them, but like I feel like I should have that.
You could probably go into like a Walmart or something, and it'll be there. But like that's an incredibly impressive amount of software. So I think my sort of opening note, having now played everything, having it all to hand, is your point about the holistic library already forming. I never found myself wanting. Yeah. And I don't feel like it should be held against Nintendo that there was so much old software because it was really never relied upon.
No, exactly.
If you look back at 2017,
and again, I don't think they really pushed it as major. No. They were like, "This is there. It's gonna be there for the rest of the system's life cycle, and even maybe continuing forward." Like, let's get out of the way, have it there, and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of times in 2017 where those ports were relied upon, and in 2018 in particular. Mm-hmm.
But and in 2020 as well, and even in 2021. Like the obviously it was the first 6 months of this year, which is like its own beast, and we talked a little bit about it. But I'm really happy with the way that they've handled the integration of legacy content because I've had too much original stuff to play for me to even have time to worry about that, or even if not worry in terms of playing it, worry in terms of not playing it. Because sometimes even in something like 2021 or 2023, there would go a 2-3 month gap where the only thing was a re-release of fucking Thousand Year Door or Legion Mansion 2. These are games I didn't play because I'm like, I have the originals, I'll just go play those. I don't need to spend $60 on it. I'm almost as hardcore as Nintendo as you can get, and they still had those gaps where it was like, all right, reutilized content, a little bit of cheaper, quicker turnaround thing is going to be what we're doing. And I didn't have to worry about Jamboree or Jamboree DLC with Jamboree TV or Current of the Forgotten Land, Starcross World being like the thing that was that month, because neither of those even had their own months, right? Yeah. They were released alongside, well, I mean, one of them was alongside Dragon Drive in August, but you know, that's another point of contention. But like, we still hit that monthly cadence, where you can now say the monthly cadence is an original game, as opposed to maybe it's actually every 2 or 3 months, right? That we're getting an original game, which was true on Switch.
And to be fair, like I really think that the Jamboree TV stuff was quite bad, and I think that the Forgotten Land DLC is pretty middle of the road, which is disappointing because I would consider that to be one of my favorite games on Switch One.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed there, to be honest. Like, I don't think that this was a roundly awesome library of stuff.
Yeah. And again, that's also true of the original stuff. Like, there definitely are games in here that we'll talk about in terms of our differing perspectives, but like, this wasn't them batting 100, but it was them batting so often that they hit more than they missed, and it was still impressive regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great strengths of Nintendo as a publisher is that they have games that speak to such diverse tastes.
Yeah. And there's big Dragon Drive fans.
Exactly. I mean, we have custom Dragon Drive shirts.
Yeah, I really should have worn that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, and I think that, again, a difference in 2017 is that they were saying, let's play the hits. And I don't mean that as a criticism.
Yeah.
It might sound like that, but they're saying, okay, here's the
we need to play the hits.
This is the crowd pleasers for everybody. And I think that Nintendo's in a position now where what they're after is people engaged with them in long term. And
that's true, yeah.
There's something for everybody here constantly. Not everything's for everybody, but I don't view that as a criticism, really.
No.
And so, yeah, you're looking at that stack of games. For me, Hyrule Warriors really didn't move the needle for me. The Switch 2 versions didn't move the needle for me. Dragon Drive was fun for a weekend, and frankly, that's all I needed out of that game. Yeah. But the other ones all really did hit. And I think I'm just going to be more receptive than a lot of people just because I play like literally everything Nintendo does, with rare exception. And it just so happened that a lot of the games this year ended up all sort of shaking out in my favorite franchises, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, even if I put to the side the stuff I didn't like that much, plenty. And if I were to do a little power ranking for you, just for a little fun here, I'm putting Donkey Kong obviously at the top, and then I'm putting Metroid Prime 4, Mario Kart World, and Kirby all at like the same tier for me, right below Donkey
Air
Kong.
Riders.
Yeah.
Yes. You can't. But here's the thing: you can't just say Kirby this year because 2 Kirby is really.
I got Donkey Kong up there at 10.
Yeah.
Got those beneath it in like this. I love them, but they're not quite
sure
the heights of Donkey Kong for me. And then everything else sort of filters below.
Yeah.
That's basically where I sit. I'm curious where you sit.
Well, and this is the thing that I think should color my perception of this year a little bit stronger than it does. But even though I'm going to present this as my thoughts on the year, it's not that important to me. Again, nothing here really blew me away. Donkey Kong Bonanza and Pokemon Legends ZA, which are 2 great games that we've had great conversations about, are easily my favorite Nintendo published games this year. They're the only ones that really resonated with me, that I really dug into and spent a ton of time in, and do things that are preferable to me in terms of their design and their forward thinkingness and stuff like that. So those neither of them are S tier for me, but they're like A tier. It's like, great. I'm so happy these happened. They both do interesting things, and I want to maybe dig into each of those a little bit more specifically. And then Mario Kart World is just below that in terms of like, for me, like, this is my Mario Kart game. Like, it feels fresh, it feels forward thinking, it feels it's beautiful. The soundtrack is amazing. It really is something different from Mario Kart, which is something I've personally had an issue with really resonating with Mario Kart. Is it felt very safe and very iterative. And we're kind of just doing the same thing, but this time you can go on fucking walls, but that doesn't really matter. Like that was my perception of Mario Kart. And Mario Kart World, I think, throws that to the side. In some cases, that's not necessarily for the better, but for me, it totally is. But then, unfortunately, like, actually everything else is in, like, this C to D tier range for me. Either it's things that are, like, totally inconsequential, there's three paths. It's either inconsequential, I didn't play it enough in the case of Hyrule Warriors, which I want to give more of a try. I really do think I'd probably like it quite a bit, or I didn't like it, right? There's a sort of fan of like mediocre to bad for me. And that's a majority of what Nintendo put out this year. But that's okay to me. I don't expect to love everything. And I in some ways kind of prefer if I don't love everything, because it gives me this breadth of things to talk about. It gives a little texture to the way that I can discuss a year and bring in a little bit of perspective and say, I didn't like Metroid Prime 4. Here's why. Here's how that, in conversation with Dread, which released a couple of years ago. And there's this variety that I crave in my game playing, which is not that I expect or even want everything to be I love this. Sometimes it sounds weird to say, sometimes I like not liking a game, because that gives me a little bit more variety to talk about and perspective to bring and texture to my own game playing environment. Is playing Prime 4 and not liking it and having a 2-hour discussion of here's why I don't like it, then that makes me appreciate the fact that, maybe ZA or Mario Kart World didn't work for someone, but they really did for me, and here's why. Like, I like this sort of balance, and 2025 it's not hitting on all cylinders for me in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity and potential depth of conversation. There's a richness here that covers the entire gamut of genres and series and revivals and sequels and reinventions and personal taste that I think does, even though I didn't love these games as much as I guess I maybe hoped that I would, I'm so glad it shook out this way, because it makes it one of the most interesting batches of games that Nintendo has put out in, again, a fucking 6-month window, Abram. A 6-month window.
It's just, I feel like the way I sort of end up approaching it is that for me to love 4 games out of Nintendo's year is like, it's not that that's rare, but it's more that I think I play a lot of Nintendo games and I'm like, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know that super often they transcend that for me. Sure. Maybe in a year from Nintendo, I'm going to get 1 or 2 of those for me. Yeah. If I'm thinking in terms of just brand new games, I'm looking in 2024, it was really only Echoes of Wisdom. Yeah, great game. Go back a year, it's Pikmin 4 and Mario Wonder. Obviously, I adore Prime Remastered, but that's not the same. Yeah, that's not the same ballpark. And so you continue back, but to me to have 4 games in this 6-month window that I would really say that I love is quite awesome. And I think that to me, that's what I'm looking for. The same way you're looking for that big, the swings and roundabouts in opinion. I'm looking for, okay, how many games do I love and how condensed of a time? And the batting average is super high.
And again, I can't stress this enough. All of this is great momentum. It feels like a nice, solid 6 months window we can talk about. But it's not like, again, unlike going into 2018, the train is not stopping. The pace and cadence and quantity and condensedness of the releases is not slowing down in 2026. They already have, I think it's a 10 Nintendo published or exclusive games announced for next year, and that's certainly not the entire lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be playing the Animal Crossing update in a couple weeks, and then that seems to be, the only thing we have for January, kind of a quieter January, but they've earned it. And then Mario Tennis Fever on February 12th, and then we're going to have Pokopia on March 5th, and then we know that Yoshi's also going to be sometime in the spring. We also know that Mario Wonder Switch 2 version will be sometime in the spring. And then we've got Fire Emblem as an ambiguous 2026, and we have Splatoon Raiders undated, but I really think that's going to come out in the summer.
Sure, yeah. I think so already, summer,
yeah, a lot of things already.
And fucking God help me, Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven better hit in the first half of the year, or I'm gonna.
Right, sorry, Tomodachi Life. I have this document. It's from Cobalt Sprint on Reddit. They made a little infographic here.
But I also made an infographic. Why the fuck aren't you using that?
Because if you Google Nintendo 2026 games, this shows up and not your infographic. Yeah. Tomodachi Life is also springtime. Yeah. Rhythm Heaven Groove is not dated yet beyond 2026. So, yeah. I'm just really taken by that variety.
Yep.
I will say, you made the point before of like, has anything kind of changed in my estimation at all?
Mm,
I would say that ZA has sort of lowered in my estimation a little bit.
sure.
I think that sort of just the back half of the game, in my view, being weaker than the front
Yeah.
half has,
Hmm.
has kind of brought it down a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with
But,
that.
something I'd want to sneak in here anyway is that I finally played Scarlet to completion this year with the Switch 2 version,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
think is revelatory for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
game. And I
Yeah,
thought that's
I played a good amount of it as well as I was
yeah,
going
you
through
did
the
the DLC.
DLC. Hmm.
I want to get that DLC. I wonder if that's
It's
even
not
on
good.
sale. Yeah, I mean the Sword and Shield DLC was not good either, so that's not a surprise. But I still want to play it, to be honest with you. Yeah, like that was really revelatory, and I ended up thinking that game was quite great.
Hmm.
And so I still had a lot of Pokemon fun this year, right?
Yeah.
And to me that's like almost getting a new game
Yeah.
with how circumstantial, not how consequential that patch was,
Sure.
with how much mileage I got out of that. To me, that's like high in my
Yeah. Yeah.
power rankings of the year. So yeah, maybe ZA has sunk in my estimation a little bit. I think Mario Kart hasn't moved, and I think that's important for me because um, I feel like it was unclear to me when we did our discussion about that game because it was quite close to launch. I
Hmm.
don't know what it was, maybe a couple weeks later. I don't
Yeah,
really
2 or 3.
remember. But I've found my rhythm with this game. I still pop it
Yeah.
back in with
Yeah.
Jean. I just was playing it some with Jean and my sister when we were home for Christmas. Um, it is interesting though. Both Jean and my sister were talking about how they wanted to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe instead.
Hmm. Sure.
But I think you and I are on a similar wavelength of this game where I just really appreciate sort of this like expressive quality to it, this newness to it,
Yeah.
and that's not worn off for me. And I think
Mhm.
that's what's important. That's not worn off for me at all. I still am as impressed by it, and I'm finding as many new things about it, and I'm making as many new decisions on old tracks as I was
Sure.
in June as I am now in December. And then I think otherwise, yeah, I don't think I don't really think I have any changed thoughts in the games.
Sure. Yeah, Mario Kart's an interesting one where I personally have not revisited it since we did our review, but it's one that I've really been keeping close tabs on.
Mhm.
Because another thing is that Nintendo's actually done a pretty good job at releasing kind of a slow cadence of updates for this game in terms of
Yeah.
fixing like there should be like a patch log and it'll be like, oh, like we reworked like a bunch of things.
We redid one of the tracks.
Yeah, it's like
Huh?
what the fuck?
Oh.
But in ways that, as far as I can tell, are generally positively
Yeah.
received, and I think are setting up this game for a very strong future. It is interesting that there hasn't been any major expansion or DLC or an extra track or anything that they've announced. But whatever, it'll be coming soon. Doesn't move the needle for me. But this again, sort of silent cadence of patches and fixes and updates, I think is something that has really polish the legacy of that game, because at launch in the sort of the discussion sphere, that game was a lot more rough, and Nintendo does seem to have listened quite a bit in a way that now looking back it's like, okay, they thought about some of these things, like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I actually definitely some of these things should have been thought about before launch, but like, again, we're within the 6-month window. This game has a 10-year life cycle ahead of it, and setting the groundwork early on, listening to feedback, I think is a good sign for where this game's going to go.
I agree. I also just refuse to be knocked off my axis by people about this game because I think that one thing that I've come to appreciate as I've played it more is like I really feel like a lot of the discussion, particularly on the intermission tracks, is just discussion born from knee-jerk dislike of something that's different.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with
Because if you, in my own playing, and for as much as I love Mario Kart, for as much as I play it, I am not like a proficient racer in the way that like the people who play Mario Kart are.
that. Well, especially
you-
not Mario Kart World players who are fucking crazy.
Yeah, and when you watch, what people are doing the intermission tracks now, or even the way that I'm sort of reveling in the chaos of them, I really just feel like Nintendo asked more from players with this game than I think people were ready to be asked of them.
Sure.
Because I just think that as you play the intermission tracks more, there's there's more to discover in them. I feel like a lot of this game's design is very resilient, and I think it kind of reveals more to you as you play it more.
Sure.
And I think that part of the reason that the sentiment on this game is rosier now, I would argue, is not just because people have gotten some of the fixes they wanted, but just because they sat with it more, and there is something to it.
Yeah.
Nintendo didn't like put out this game full of these intermission tracks like on accident.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
and I'm really excited. Fuck the DLC that's inevitably coming, the changes, anything. I'm excited for the retrospective appraisal of the game
totally.
that exists right now. Not the game that's going to be in 10 years. I know it's going to be different. I don't care about that. Mm-hmm. Mario Kart 8 needed that DLC because the game wasn't that interesting, really.
Yeah.
That's a game that was made interesting through its volume of content. Mm-hmm. This is a game that's interesting intrinsically, and the content will only expand on that. Good but point, you don't need that. I don't. Or at least I don't. Yeah. So, I just think that this game is a real grower, and even and I said it didn't move, but both things are true at once. Just because I loved it then and I love it now, it's just that I'm loving it in a deeper way now, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's also emblematic of this year being, again, more textured than I think I might have even expected in 2024. When I'm thinking about, all right, what beats are they going to hit in 2025? I think Mario Kart was expected, but not this Mario Kart. Not with the changes and the variety that this game has, and obviously the fucking open world and the wall riding and the funny weird characters you can ride at, and the costumes you can unlock, and the fact that you can just play songs across the course of Mario history. This game does feel, to me, and actually this is a point you brought up earlier, and I think it's maybe a good point to sort of wrap up this discussion in, is this is not a clean break from Switch 1. It is largely, in terms of there's not a lot of Switch 1 titles coming out anymore. Actually, a quicker cutoff than I really expected this year. But Switch 1 into Switch 2, and the fact that all these games can be played on Switch 2. The fact that most of them, if not all of them actually, play better or are updated in some way. Even something like Galaxy 1 and 2 have a little bit of a Switch 2 touch on them. Not that much, but again, it's nothing is left totally behind here.
100%.
And I mentioned that because one of the things that I was thinking about, what beats are they going to hit in 2025? What beats are they going to hit with early Switch 2? Is I think I thought it was going to be more cyclical. Of, all right, Switch 1 is done. Let's move on to Switch 2. Let's do these things again. We know what worked. Let's continue that momentum forward. And I don't think they did that. I think for some people, and as we sort of wrap up this year and listen to some conversations about what people thought of this year, I think it's going to be kind of a negative. It's where were those major games? Where were those crowd-pleasing mega hits that we got in early 2017, right? But I don't think Nintendo's thinking about it that way, because they've built up such a rich library of Switch 1 games that, again, as we mentioned, are all there and better on Switch 2. And they're continuing that interesting experimental Switch energy forward, where we got crazy revivals of series that we didn't expect. Something like Kirby Air Riders going into 2025.
Or even Donkey Kong.
Gonna get there. No fucking way would you have thought that was gonna happen. Looking into 2025, we're well, you gotta launch with a 3D Mario. Nope. They just didn't. And they reinvented Donkey Kong and reapproached that series that makes it more relevant now than it has been, honest to God, maybe in 15, 20 years. And we finally got Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and we finally got the long-awaited sequel to Mario Kart 8. This year is, there's some things that are okay, of course you're going to have this, but we also got a Pokemon game on a new system in the launch window for the first time ever. This is more variety than I think I was maybe even expecting. We were initially going to be making a video about all right, what's Switch 2's life cycle going to look like? We planned out a series of games. I don't think anything here in the way that it actually shook out is something that we'd expected to happen. Hyrule Warriors, I think, is the only thing that I think we could have safely predicted almost exactly what it was going to be. And of course we knew Prime 4 Beyond was happening. But I didn't expect ZA to have a rethought battle system. I didn't expect it to be all set in one city. I didn't expect it to be open world in Mario Kart. I didn't expect Donkey Kong to get a major 3D platformer where he turns a fucking zebra. Like, this was a weird year for Nintendo, and that weird Nintendo energy is what you and I like out of it. We like the fact that they have fucking Famicom, Detective Club, and all that stuff, but that weird energy kind of has seeped up from the bottom into these major games where it makes them maybe a little more controversial, but I think texturally and conversationally, it makes them way more interesting, and you can still feel that Nintendo a creative spark really flowing through these things to where they're not just playing it safe and doing the exact same thing. Like when we look from Wii to Wii U, that was them just like, we know it works, let's fucking do it again. They didn't do that with Switch 2.
Yes, I think, and I think this is where the GameCube comparison is very apt. Just because the journey from 64 to Sunshine or Ocarina to Wind Waker is sort of the kind of thing we're thinking of, and obviously the GameCube has had this sort of dual reputation where at the time it was widely criticized, in and outside of the Nintendo world in a way that's not massively dissimilar to how the Switch 2 is being treated, and then look at where that library ended up. And so I just think that, for as revelatory as a lot of Switch 1 games were, there's also a degree of sense to all of them.
Sure.
It is sensible to make an open world Zelda game. It is sensible to make a sandbox Mario game.
Yeah.
It's sensible to add more crafting elements to Animal Crossing. All that stuff is very sensible. Not to take away from the revelatory nature of any of it, but just say those are sensible things to do. And is the stuff that we're talking about in 2025 quite as sensible? Maybe not. But I don't think that Nintendo is always at their best when they're at their most sensible.
Sure.
And I think that there's a cool dissonance between very sensible hardware and games that aren't quite as sensible. And I like that union. Yeah.
Well, because again, it also it's a foundation.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of these things being not sensible, and again, that causing some controversy. I think nowhere more apparent than Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which is a game that really has had mixed conversation around it and different perspectives on. And now, as we're learning a little bit more about the development history, it's like this was a strange game being created. It realized in a game that is very strange and disparate and controversial. But all these things are here now and will be here forever. And I still think those more sensible games are coming, and maybe people want sensibility. It might not be what you and I are coming to Nintendo for, but I like the fact that they have this swing and kind of can play both sides of the field. And I think actually Switch was a good example of that. I think you're right in that some of these things, like, this is what people want, let's do that. And now we're getting, like, again, a lot of those felt like a Switch 1 games felt like, oh, dream games. They're never going to do this because it would be too good to be true. Smash Ultimate, open world Zelda, sandbox 3D Mario. It's like they did all these things. And now they're doing it, but with like a little bit of Nintendo funk that people like out of again, something like GameCube or DS or Wii. It's like, it's not exactly what you expected.
I also think that, like, even if I can just debate myself, there's also just a degree of, like, everybody wanted a new 3D Donkey Kong. We got a new 3D Donkey Kong. Everyone got a new
I don't
Mario.
think that's true, though. I don't think everyone wanted a 3D Donkey Kong. I don't think anyone expected that to happen.
No, everybody wanted a 3D Donkey Kong at some point. How often is everyone wants Donkey Kong to come back?
Sure, yeah.
Everyone wants a new brand new Mario Kart. Oh, open world Mario Kart. Oh, wow. Oh, sure, Metroid Prime 4. Oh, a new Kirby Air Riders. Like, this is... My point in part is that I think that there's also a degree to where there's just a distance of expectation.
Sure.
If... split out all these games, right? And imagine we got one of these games in each of the next 4 years. This year it's Donkey Kong with a Smash Brothers. I don't fucking know. A new Zelda game and a Donkey Kong. And then next year is we get the Prime 4 and we get the Mario Kart. And then the year after that we get the Animal Crossing and we get the Kirby Air Riders. It's the proximity that people are also talking about.
Sure.
All of these games individually are still those same dream game type of things. But you put them all together, and then people are weird about it. Like, it's even like, imagine if in the first year of Switch you got New Horizons and you got all of this stuff. and you're coming off of a more traditional Zelda and Animal Crossing and all that shit, like there would be the same conversation. Like I really think that there's just a degree to which we spent 18 months in narrativizing what Nintendo must have for the Switch to succeed. It must have a 3D Mario. It must have a big traditional Mario Kart. It must have this, must have that. And Nintendo said, we don't need any of it.
Yeah.
And they were right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Switch 2 is a massive success. They were right.
Yeah.
I just think that there's a degree to which we like we're laying in the 18 months of silence from Nintendo about what Switch 2 was going to be gave everybody time to come to a consensus about what it would be.
Sure. I think that's true. Yeah.
And it's not that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to see that identity form even stronger next year with this, again, very interesting slate of games. It's certainly not pleasing everyone, but to the point I think I made at the very beginning, I think there's something for everyone there.
Yeah.
I think people, in some way, think that they want everything to be for them. And when one of these games doesn't hit fully for them, when they look at the slate and they're like, man, nothing really hit fully for them, I think that it misses the forest for the trees in that Nintendo is one of the only publishers that has a rich enough and vast enough library of things that they're actively working on to where in one given year, there's more than what 5 other publishers are doing. I think that is their strength to me. And it means that I don't put so much personally, I don't put so much expectation on any one Nintendo release. I look at it as this body of work where I can take a little something from here and take a little something from there and look and say, I'm looking at this list in front of me, and we have Kirby, Mario, Donkey Kong, Pokemon, Zelda, and Metroid, and new IP. That's 7 things.
Yeah.
7, and then this isn't everything, of course, because all the Switch 2 versions, and I didn't even play any of those. 7 things on just this stack of games that I have in front of me, which is a slice of what Nintendo did this year, is more than most publishers do in 1 year. And they did this in 6 months, and it isn't everything. And so that of richness and variety, and when I look forward and I'm like, I don't know if I will love Pokopia. I don't know if I will even play Mario Wonder Balboa Park. I don't know if I'll love Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave because I don't know, Engage wasn't super it for me. And I look at these games, but I think about them more in conversation. Again, you're right that how condensed everything is. It's like it's a big soup, and if I get half the bites of this, well, this is not a very good comparison. I'm gonna say it anyway. If I get half the bites of soup that I really like, and the other ones I'm like it's okay, that's still pretty good soup. Does it work?
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No,
because that would be actually really bad soup. If every other bite you're sitting down there like, oh fuck, that one was
No.
awful.
No. But again, I don't think any bite is going to be awful. I think it's like some of them are like better than others. But there's a lot of bites to take. I don't fucking know. But I like Nintendo a lot.
You know what it's like? Hold on.
Oh, he's doing
it's
it.
like when you're eating ice cream, and the ice cream is always every bite of the ice cream is good, but sometimes you get the chocolate piece in the ice cream bite.
Oh, I see. Yeah, sure.
There we go.
But then sometimes it's fucking Prime 4, and I'm like, black.
Well, that's when you accidentally bite the spoon. You know when you accidentally bite the silverware and it hurts your teeth? And like I've been biting things for 25 years. How did I do it wrong this time?
Do you have any thoughts about this lineup and sort of the looking forward how Switch, because we are leading into a very busy year. That'll be exciting to talk about at the end, but we're at the point where it's like again, it's not stopping.
Yeah, it just makes me very happy. Ultimately, I just think I think something we didn't see for a while in the early Switch era was sort of a make good on the idea of all of the handheld and home console teams consolidating.
Oh, sure.
And we saw like a lot of droughts in the first half of the Switch 2's life, which is not so true of the second half. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're also seeing more of the benefits of the third party relationships Nintendo struck up. Like, sure. Just looking at this list again, like Pokopia is made by somebody in Koei Tecmo, right?
Yeah, it's the Dragon Quest Builders team, probably.
Yeah, in like sharp call from our great friend Bo. Yoshi is probably made by Arzest.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I just think we're going to continue to see the calendar fill out with more and more cool stuff. And it's just, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9 things I think already confirmed. 9 things, and it's not like Nintendo's not going to announce anything next year for the same year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're still going to get a big Pokemon game as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just I don't know how I could be anything other than extremely excited. I think that's how I feel.
Yeah, excited for the future and pleased with the present. I mean, this is. I mean, I was so over the moon with Switch because it was something that felt so fresh to me. Even some of the when I was engaged with 3DS and Wii U for the second half of those systems' life cycles, I was really. Unlike you, I was really not as locked in on everything. There were so many 3DS games that I didn't play. It's even true for Wii U. Most Wii U games I experienced because they then came to Switch. But and I actually think back to when you were maybe a little bit displeased with the first half of the Switch's life cycle because it was so much reutilized content, and that release calendar was so imbalanced in terms of how often original content that you were looking forward to was coming out. I don't think they're going to have that problem again, and I think that it means that. I like your point about the handheld home console thing, right? Of now we kind of have that, but with original content and legacy content. They're kind of supporting a much fuller calendar than we had in the first half of the Switch that mirrors a little bit better what happened with Wii U and 3DS with 2 releases a month and something for everyone. And no one's expecting you to play everything, but if you're engaged, you're gonna get 4 or 5 games a year that you're looking forward to and purchasing.
And it just goes back to the point about continuity too. Like I don't want to get into this now, so don't respond. This is a good discussion for another time. But even just thinking about Animal Crossing, the update in a couple of weeks. I know a lot of people are unhappy of where's the new Animal Crossing? Guys, it's coming for sure.
Yeah, of course it's coming. Yeah.
But also it's like when I reading this through the lens of continuity, Animal Crossing New Horizons is still the Switch is Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
And so there's something a little different to me about okay, this game has a place in my library and in my rotation.
Sure.
And now it's being put back up at the top of the queue. It doesn't feel the same way to me as when a Wii U game had already finished and closed the door on many years ago suddenly came back on Switch. And they're like, this is important. And I'm like, Captain Toad's a great game, man, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But when they say, "Oh, Animal Crossing, that game is already on you already installed on your Switch too. You're already still checking in on. It's getting more stuff. We're putting it back at the top of the batting order while we still work on the new Animal Crossing game." It's different to me. So yeah, I think that this is such a rich period. It's an embarrassment of riches for Nintendo fans, and I'm just very excited to watch the Switch 2, I think, continue to develop into what will almost undoubtedly become my favorite system ever. I mean, I already love it so much now.
Yeah.
So yeah, very happy. Very, very happy.
I think this year gets 2 thumbs up. Does it get 4?
I think so.
4 thumbs up from BLB. That's the official BLB review here of 2025 for Nintendo. Thank you for listening. That's the official BLB review here of 2025.